Sprightly Park. With all my playing around in Roller Coaster Tycoon, this park made me think, how much money can I make? In the original game, this is the only park that gives you a massive amount of debt that's not a real park. And when I've been playing through it before, although it's not that exciting, I think, I wonder if I can make that much money. But at $250,000, you're not just going to make that much money willy-nilly. So, if you watch my other video I said there's 4 key ways to make a lot of money fast. One of them is going to be park entrance price. So here, I'm just scouting out to see how much I can charge for my admission price. The max I want to charge is the minimum that the lowest amount of guests makes. There's 4 guest prices or amounts of money that they can bring. So I'm just simply looking for the guests there. I believe I ended up settling on $60, which is a fair amount, especially for the original game. I think it's about the highest. I think it's usually in increments of 4, so maybe 70 if you have 100, but 60 is probably about pretty good. But the idea is we need to get a park that's worth enough that guests will come in and spend a bunch of money. We'll spend $60 to come there. So you start off with a couple rides. This little Virginia reel is high and has a really long line and a terrible throughput, but that's not really a problem for us. You also have a nice little miniature railroad, a little cycle railroad, which is like also stupid. You have Shooting Star, which is a nice little high ride. I mean, again, there's 2 like basically defunct rides in a slide fiction coaster and a Virginia reel, so I mean, I'd pay $60 to go to a park like this if I could ride those 2 coasters as much as I wanted. Straight up. Not gonna lie about that. Oh, and there's a little ghost train over there too. Or whatever we call it nowadays. Which has little like doors. I mean, it's cool. And they already have a bunch of pre-built gentle rides and stuff. So that's our scenario. We got this in the nice little hills. If you played through this before, it's not really a memorable scenario, especially because they restrict you to only a couple roller coasters and mainly a lot of wooden roller coasters. It looks like an Open RC Tycoon. You do get the spinning wild mouse, which just randomly shows up like everywhere. And then you also do get the mini steel roller coaster, which is a little bit different how that works in Open RC Tycoon. So, but as far as just beating this, I didn't want to use the compact mini steel coaster too much because that doesn't actually work in the original game because the stats are slightly different, as I showed in my Dynamite Dunes video. So I was thinking, what's the easiest way to be able to build up that soft guest cap? And for me, it's going to be the Ferris wheel, because the Ferris wheel is one of the easiestly spammable rides. As you can see, not many thrill rides, only a couple gentle rides, and you really start with the 2 roller coasters that you already have pre-built coasters for. And the next one you get is the reverser coaster, so even just waiting like that's not going to help you out too much. So you do get some better wooden coasters later on that you can do a lot more with. I didn't necessarily find that necessary, but if you want to try to completely max out what you want to do. So, we're here on Sprightly Park. I'm going to put an information kiosk there to make money on my umbrellas, especially at first, because there's a bunch of guests that already start off in my park, and I can't charge the $60 maximum yet to be able to get there. So, I'm not like going on like a super speed run here, but I'm just trying to be as efficient as possible. Put something over there as well for when everybody rides the railroad and comes over there. As I said, put a little bit of fruits, the food stalls in there, because basically if you just go ahead and do that, like, you can keep all your guests happy and meet the objective. We actually don't want guests to stay in the park, but park rating and park happiness is is correlated with how guest spawns. So we might as well like have some of those things, because I'm too lazy to build a bunch of death traps right from the start. I did go ahead and, especially at first, they'll actually pay a little bit of money for some of the rides. So I went ahead and charged money for them, because I'm like, why not? Trying to make a little extra buck. See, they all think it's good value. So now I'm going to start right over there by the Ferris wheel. You probably don't have to lower the land, but I just like lowering the land, and it gives me such great satisfaction. I'm going to go ahead and just use the Gentle Glen Ferris wheel setup that I did, which just has the one queue line and then the one footpath at the end. You just kind of got to be aware as far as how you're putting the footpath on at the end, so that you're doing it in a way that just makes sense. As you can see here, we were able to spam a lot of the Ferris wheels. So we got that. It's only 8, 9, 10. I mean, again, you have such a solid park to begin with that it's not like a huge necessity that you like increase your soft guest cap like a whole bunch. Especially because we don't actually want that many guests in the park to begin with. That's why we're going to use the death traps to get rid of them. But we can put some nice Ferris wheels back here to try to attract a couple more guests. I'm sure there's also easier ways to do this. But to me, this just makes me really happy. Like when I built the 100 Ferris wheels on Gentle Glen, like that was just really nice. It's really annoying that it won't let you like click over it on Open RC Tycoon, because it totally lets you do that in the original. Just throwing that out there. So again, I probably spent about 10 to 15,000, especially because I lowered the land and wanted to look all fancy and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways you could probably go ahead and do this, as far as just trying to flesh out the park just a little bit more over the first couple of months. And then originally I went ahead and made death traps for the two main roller coasters, Shooting Star as well as the Virginia Rail. Just because I wanted to try to be able to get as many guests out of the park. Because you start with like 500 guests in your park, and then now you're up. I mean, now we're up to 800 because we've been building and doing stuff because we're not stupid, as well as marketing campaigns early on. Even though we're not making as much return because our park entrance fee isn't as high. So, yeah, and like that's the other thing too. Like you got to be able to have more in your park, so that people are willing to pay the higher park entry fee. Then I went ahead and made one more enclave of Ferris wheels right here at the very front of the park. If I was actually doing this scenario for real, like I feel like that's like the perfect place to put a little wooden wild mouse on that little hill there. Just throwing out my actual loves for this scenario. Then this challenge kind of got boring, because now I'm just having to sit here and wait to try to be able to make enough money to be able to repay my loan. So I did build this. This is just a pre-built wooden coaster here that I built high up in the air and then raised a bunch of land so I could have like a death trap that eats like a lot of my guests, to try to be able to get them out of the park. Because as you can see, like I'm still hovering around like 1,000 guests. So like one of the biggest problems is like you're always gonna have all these guests in your park. So once I was able to get situated here, so it took me till about July to really be able to start maximizing marketing and getting my park entrance tickets to the max 6. So now that I'm going here, it's about 20 to 23,000 a month when it comes to the park entrance tickets. I did have one month where I got like 30,000 for my park entrance tickets, but I'm not exactly sure how that was different. Since I am just speeding it up here in Open RC Tycoon, I may not have like hit things exactly like although by the end, for some reason I wasn't quite making as much money. I think too there is a thing about like how old rides are. So since I didn't add any rides towards the end, probably about the last 6 months or so, I definitely noticed that I wasn't quite making as much money at the gate, so I wasn't quite attracting as many guests for some reason. So you might, if you're trying to make even more money, you might want to go ahead and add some at a later point. This is the Watching the Finances show, featuring your host, Roller Coasters of Thailand. No, not really. So we jumped here ahead about a year and a half. As you can see, My park entrance tickets were fairly consistent, somewhere between 20 and 23. I did get that 31,000. It looks like they're in July, so a little bit of a tick up there. But I was able to pay down a fair amount of my loan. I feel like if you really wanted to make this a challenge, try to see if like you could do it in pay off your loan by the end of October year 2. And now we're almost there, but instead of us being on good pace, it's already August, and for some reason, I guess I got distracted and lost focus there because we don't have that many like guests in our park at all, too. So the objective is 1,500 guests, which isn't hard to do, but for some reason things got really convoluted in this year, and I wasn't doing what I needed to do. So instead of worrying about money too, I just went ahead and did marketing campaigns for everything because I'm like, I have to make sure I meet my objective too. As you can see there, April and May, like I just wasn't making any money. So I remember marketing in May. Maybe I didn't have marketing in March and April. So around and wait. I still haven't repaid all of that loan. So again, I mean, marketing is expensive, but I mean, you get the good returns on it. But I think it was about $400,000 I had to make in park entrance tickets. So about $1,500 that I spent on other things. I mean, a lot of that's going to be your staff wages and marketing and ride running costs and those types of things as well. Since the Open RC Tycoon 2, I also was able to add in like unlimited amount of trains, which is a really nice perk and something that should totally have just been in the original. But there's a few benefits. But there's also a lot of things I really, really like about the original Roller Coaster Tycoon. So we have 2 months. I was really worried about my guest stuff at this my guests in the park at this point because I don't have that many guests, so I'm kind of like, man, I am really cutting it close if I can get 600 guests. I mean, I got well over 7,000 guests in the park altogether to begin with, so it wasn't a huge thing, but I'm just like, okay, what's my objective? Because I want to make sure I don't fail. There's my price at $50. And I repaid my loan. September year 3 with a month and a half to go. And if we fast forward some, here we are. I'm just trying to sneak in enough guests to make sure I pass my objective. There's my finances. As I said, definitely a downtick even with higher marketing there towards the end. Again, I mean, with September, I didn't quite have as much because I'm giving people discounts on park entrance tickets. But I feel like the third year I stagnated a little bit. So yeah, using the strategy, might need to update some rides and those types of things. But I was able to beat my objective, and I got like a gazillion guests in the park, so that was really cool.